This is A&B Convo's Wrestling Edition. Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to A&B Convo's Wrestling Podcast. This is episode 3, and we got a little cup of coffee in the big time. Yeah, cup of coffee in the big time. I got the big man over here, Steven Sandridge, and I've got the one and only B getting in the grandstanding, and they're hot dogging. Dig it, yeah, freak out.
Sweet. Thanks for that intro.
All right. Yeah.
What's happening, everybody?
Ayo.
I love Ayo.
Yeah,
I love that.
Any of your Patreon subscribers who are watching the video version, I'm rocking it with the mic is obscuring it, but my favorite Scott Hall is for the children shirt. Thanks to my wife for finding that shirt for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm all about the kids, man.
All
What's
about
going
the
on?
kids. Yeah, we all dressed. We all had the same idea today. We all
We're
dressed
all new
in
generation.
honor of the episode.
We're all
for
the
sure.
excellence of execution over
Absolutely.
You
here. I
guys
love
can't
it.
see it, but I have Heartbreak Kids pants on too. So, I
So
had
are
to
you
do
two
it
going to
big.
be okay? Because I have a Brett and Sean over here. Do I need to be in the middle for this one, or?
We've mended fences at this point. We've mended fences.
We've come a long way. We've
Got
come a
it.
long way.
So 20 years ago, maybe not. I don't know.
Yes, so this is Mr. McMahon episode 3.
Trace.
Yes, so we're going to get into some juicy stuff. Not quite as juicy as you would have hoped because, like you said, a lot of people already were aware of these things that were going on within the wrestling world. But it is interesting to see Vince's take and some of the background. And of course, what you hear Vince and then you listen to other people, and what he says never matches up. But they did open the show with Wendy Riker, and at first I'm like, okay, why does this really matter? But I kind of saw how they brought that full circle because essentially she was the first OG screw job. But is it really a screw job in her case when she's refusing to give the title up? And he's saying, this is a scripted show. I gave you the title, and now you need to give it up. And she's saying, I'm not going to give it up. It's not yours to say that to. So was he out of line even in that situation?
I mean, oh boy, I can't believe it. This is like my first thing I'm saying is just going to like rip off the Band-Aid. Business wise, when it comes to screw jobs, I'm pro company on that. I will say, if I was like, if I ruled the world, credit to Nas there.
Yeah.
Like,
Imagine
Yeah.
I would hope that business would not escalate to the point where that would have to be a question that has to be asked.
Yeah.
And so to that degree, I'm not necessarily on Vince's side or anybody else's side. But when it comes to the matter of like, hey, this is a narrative we're telling, it's a story we're telling, and you're telling me that you're going to try to prevent me from telling the story I want to tell.
Right.
You work for me. So either play your role or shut your mouth, right? You know,
like that's my title, not yours.
Yeah,
You're just holding
like
it.
You did not earn this. It is, and that's
Right.
the degree where I remove the romanticism of fandom that I love about wrestling to be like, it is a prop. Like it's not, you didn't actually beat a guy for that.
Right, you were handed that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's funny. I was thinking about that, and it's multifaceted. I'm going to be as succinct as possible because I know we have a lot to get through in this episode, but Vince is not wrong, but Vince is also not right. And the issue that I have with it is there are many a spoke that makes a wheel, and everybody plays a part in what professional wrestling ultimately is, right? Yeah, you are the owner of this company, you scripted the product, and you're kind of moving along. But at the same time, we've seen some boneheaded moves in professional wrestling where we say, why did they make the decision to do X, Y, and Z? It doesn't make any sense. It's hurting this character. It's hurting this development. It's just boneheaded stuff. So this is not to say that just because you're the boss means that you know everything and you've got everything on lock. You don't. Triple H in this episode said, look, we've got to change with the times, and you just are being a little more archaic with certain things. So yeah, in one hand, I can see where you not wanting to drop the title is an issue. It's problematic. Part of this dance is you getting other people over. at the same time, you're going to hurt your stock in a certain way. As she felt like she was going to hurt her stock, but also looking at the time period, women really were just vying for scraps. The fact that you were a champion was a big deal at that time, but you were fighting somebody like the Fabulous Moolah, who came in an industry where she paved the way for these women, literally paved the way for these women. So I kind of feel the same way with Brett and him, and we'll get to that a little later in this episode. But she should have definitely played ball. Yeah. But at the same time, as the owner, maybe have a conversation with somebody and say, look, this is how we're going to do it. And I feel like Vince really was like, okay, well, what are we going to do? Well, I'm just going to do it my way. I'm not going to tell you. It's going to be a surprise. And that kind of sucks.
Yeah. Well, I think too, if I'm remembering correctly, when they spoke to Wendy, at least in the context of this documentary, her rationale was like, I was attached to Cyndi Lauper. Like, it was very much this vibe of like, I'm the female Hulk Hogan in this rock and wrestling thing.
Right.
And, she was present for that. But I think it is, and so many top stars throughout history will tell you that this is a selfish business, and you have to have a bit of an ego to be able to have the ambition to get ahead and stuff like that. But also, shout out to Scott Hall on my T-shirt, has often said, and I wish I could do a proper impression of Scott, but he's just like, hey, don't be a mark for yourself, which like is a term that I don't really love, but he talks about other performers, basically saying, don't work yourself into this idea that you're the fake character, not the right word, that you're this dramatized character, that you play on TV and stuff. Like, it is still a business. Like, we all exist behind the curtain. Like, don't treat your treatment like you're one of the fans.
Right.
And wrestling is such a weird industry in that it's easier to blur those lines than it is with, say, like Hollywood or something else.
Yeah.
That's like that. So I think we do run into cases sometimes with both of these where there might be a little bit of like, if you're going to be mean about it, you'd call it believing your own hype. Yeah. But like, just realistically, it's like having those lines blurred so much that you can't really separate. My career could still recover from this with the right decisions afterwards. And but that does depend on the situation though, because like Wendy and Brett like had different before their screw jobs had different situations happening. Brett was already on his way out, and I think Wendy was gonna be sticking around.
Yeah,
turns out she didn't. Yeah, because of how that went down. But nevertheless, so it's a tricky thing, and like I think there's sympathy involved for going in and having the rug pulled out from under you. In front of a crowd. And all this other stuff. Like, it's not professional, but it's also not professional to be given the instructions by your boss and be like, I'm not doing that.
Yep.
So they then transitioned into the end of the trial, the steroid trial, and every time I saw him in that neck brace, it was just so funny to me. I just felt like I was watching one big wrestling skit. Like
Tony Khan could never.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
Thank you. I was about to say.
Not with you with this neck brace, dude. So at that point, even though he was found not guilty, the business was hurting, and he needed a new face of the company, and they had a hard time replacing Hogan.
Hard times
until Bret Hart came along, and we got Bret Hart in the new generation with Razor Ramon, Shawn Michaels. You got The Undertaker. You got Triple H. So now wrestling is starting to look a little different from the Hulk Hogan, the black and red, eat your vitamins. You got Bret Hart.
Inject your vitamins. You meant inject your vitamins. Yes.
That is what I meant. And so now you have this new generation of wrestlers coming up with these different attitudes that are changing with the times.